Breiden, welcome to the podcast, my man. How you doing?
Good, thank you, brother. Appreciate you for having me, man. I am blessed. I'm excited just to spread some knowledge and just be able to be here and talk a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. We'll touch on your journey a little bit here,
Yeah.
talk a little NFL stuff. I know you have a lot of opinions on that, and you're trying to build out your own fan base with the whole content gig. So excited to talk to you about some of those things. But I ask all my guests this, and I feel like it's a pretty good question to start off, because sometimes people will click on videos and they're not familiar with maybe who you are or your journey or anyone who I bring on the show. So the question I usually like to ask is, if someone is clicking on this and they have no idea who you are, why do you think they should stick around and listen to what you have to say?
From the avid viewer of sports, if you appreciate, just football takes, if you appreciate knowledge of the game, I feel like I'm one of the smartest guys to ever, grace the game in my position. Right now, I didn't say the most talented. Don't get it twisted. There's obviously guys that have graced this game that have done phenomenal things. But from a mental aspect and standpoint of understanding the game of football, I think I provide a great point of view, and I do it in a way where I don't put down the avid fan. I'm not here to be the guy that says, I told you so, or in your face. I'm here to give you knowledge. I'm here to help you bridge the gap between the fans and the players. And then it just gives you a different perspective. I think I'm I'm an open book guy. I'm always open to people giving me advice, giving me knowledge. And so stick around, man. I think I'm probably one of the best follows you can follow on social media right now, just because of how interactive I am with the fans and just how open I am about the game.
It's interesting you said smart, because I had Kyle Sloter on the podcast. He was backup quarterback for Vikings and Broncos, a couple other teams. He was really one of my favorite interviews that I've had thus far. Yeah, and he was really insightful, especially when it came to the quarterback play. And he said how there's different definitions of smart, right? Like you can be book smart, but as for a quarterback, what's really important is that you're quick at recognizing patterns, reading defenses. So like pattern recognition, that type of smart. So I'm curious, why do you, I guess to put it bluntly, like why do you think you're smart, and kind of in what ways are you smart about the game of football?
So I think what's helped me over my career, dating back to early college days in the NFL, is I've been very fortunate to be around great coaches, offensive minds, defensive minds, and really great quarterbacks. Dating back to my early days at Texas Tech, I played with Patrick Mahomes. I played with Joe Burrow at LSU. Early on in my career in LA, I played with Justin Herbert. Got to Pittsburgh, played with Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers. And, just the fact how I've been able to spend time with these guys individually. I'm a great locker room guy. I've always been a great locker room guy. I think that's my stamp. You can ask any of my former teammates. They'll probably have some colorful commentating about me in the locker room, but I think just my ability to gravitate towards people. And I've always been the guy to ask questions, whether it's to my teammates, whether it's to my coaches. I've always been intrigued about learning the game more from a defensive line perspective. Throughout my career, you always catch me on the sideline during games. Like if the offense is out there, I'm always talking to the backup quarterback throughout the game. Hey, what's this play? Hey, they're going split safety here, et cetera, things like that. And then, just throughout the week, man, talking to the offensive linemen. And so I think what makes me smart, answering your question, is just my point of view I'm able to get from different guys on the team, whether it's the offensive lineman, the center, what he's seeing pre-snap, quarterbacks, offensive coordinators. I mean, I'm always talking to everybody. I'm the guy that I never stop talking. I don't shut up whenever I'm inside the facility at work. So it's helped me. It's blessed me in ways where I'm able to share that information now with people that are just striving to learn the game on a more, expertise level.
You mentioned some of the quarterbacks that you played with, and I have a whole segment ready for us to kind of discuss what you learned from each one of those guys. So we'll save that for later. But I did want to ask, like, what do you think the average NFL fan, and honestly, I would probably put myself in this camp. I watch a ton of football. Like Sundays are, blocked off through what is it, February, right? Like that's all I do. Thursday night, Monday night. That's my thing. I joke around. That's part of the reason why I don't have a girlfriend, is because it's like, hey, if she wanted to do something on Sunday, it's like,
no
go. So like I watch a ton of football, but I'd say I'm an average NFL fan from the perspective of actual knowledge about the game. So like when I'm watching football, I'm watching it because of my fantasy players and other reasons. But like, if you were to tell me like, hey, what coverage is this, right? Or like, what route combination, is this? I'd be like, I'd have to probably rely on my Madden knowledge to maybe help me out. So like, what do you define as an average NFL fan?
I define somebody as an average NFL fan as somebody who, one, finds the game passionately. I am an average NFL fan. Even when I was playing, I was still a fan of the game. I always have said it. I'm a football fanatic. Somebody who grew up watching the game. I grew up Sunday mornings in Honolulu, Hawaii, watching Adrian Peterson because he was my favorite player in the NFL growing up. I wanted to be like all day. I had a 28 jersey from Minnesota. Like, that's what I wanted to be. And so when you talk about the average NFL fan, I always felt like somebody who's passionate about the game of football and always just trying to strive to learn more about the players, not just on the field, X's and O's, but what are they like off the field? That's what a fan is all about, is just finding more opportunity to get closer with the game and get more intimate with the players from a viewer's perspective.
What do you think most fans don't realize or don't know about NFL players? Take it wherever you want.
That's a great question. One of the things that I wish fans would realize more and understand is teams aren't trying to play bad. Like, your favorite players aren't trying to go out there and, shit the bed on a Sunday, right? I see it all the time. Like, man, this guy he's ruined my parlay, or I'm not starting him in fantasy this week. And what a waste. Like, I promise these guys don't go out there on Sunday and be like, I'm going to get 20 rushing yards this week. I don't feel like going for 100. Like, that's never the thing. Whenever we strap up our helmets as players, our job is to go out there and execute the game plan to the fullest. And honestly, our goal every week is to have a historic game. Like, that's every NFL player's dream growing up, is to have that big, iconic game. And we're striving for that every week. So if there's one big thing that I wish fans realize, it's I promise these guys aren't trying to play bad or aren't trying to ruin your parlays. You know what I mean?
Perfect example. Last night, Marvin Harrison, right? Like, I don't know if you caught the game, but I'm a huge 49ers fan. So I saw it firsthand last weekend with his drops against us. And so coming into the game, people were already like, okay, is this guy a bust? Like, he has the yips. What's happening? And then last night he drops, I don't want to call like a slant pass over the middle of the field an easy throw and catch, but it was thrown well by Kyler. Marv should have caught it. He didn't. He bobbled it, turned into an interception. And then, I was scrolling through Twitter live during the game, and it was just like, I mean, pick your poison, really. I mean, the Marvin Harrison reactions were wild, to say the least. So like, in situations like that, I'm gonna sound like a broken record, man, but I feel like it always comes up when I talk to former NFL athletes or athletes in general. Perfect example. I had Cesar Ruiz on the podcast, offensive lineman for the Saints.
Good player.
Fantastic player. And we were talking about the same topic. It's like, hey, how do fans interact with the athletes? Kind of this new media landscape with a lot of former players or current players having podcasts too, and just that general interaction and kind of the effects of fantasy football and gambling on everything and all that jazz. And he was saying how, hey, listen, before a game, I think it was a week before a game, his grandma passed away, and he had a pretty bad game. And the Saints faithful were letting him have it. Like, oh, Caesar sucked this game, whatever. What you don't see is that Caesar's grandma, who he was really close with, passed away just a week prior. Another perfect example. Charvarius Ward, Mooney Ward, cornerback for the Niners last year. Yep. His baby daughter passed away mid-season. And I distinctly remember, I think it was against the Chiefs last year. He had a bad game. Like, he just bad game. And all the Niners fans, myself included, like, I'm not trying to portray myself as being above some of these things, because we're human, and if we don't have all the information, it could be difficult to kind of parse through. But everyone was saying how he's lost a step, how he's bad. He was bad in coverage. Like, what's happening with Mooney Ward? Should the Niners cut him? Mooney Ward sucks. I mean, just go on Reddit and look at some of the comments. what we didn't realize as fans was that his baby daughter just passed away.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, a life event that, I mean, I get goosebumps just thinking about it because of how tragic it is. Imagine trying to go to your 9 to 5 or any other job for that matter after hearing that news. So I bring all that up because what I try to do with this podcast, I love talking, NFL, NBA, but I also try to give some insight into who these people are, not just on the field, but off the field. Like, Breiden has this NFL career over here, right? But then he also has this entire different life. You have a newborn son. You have, all these. You love. You're an avid chef. Like, you have all these different passions, and I feel like that needs to be somehow addressed, and that's partly why I started this podcast. But to your point, like, and I remember one last thing. Now I promise I'll stop rambling. But Caesar mentioned on my interview with him too. He was like, dude, trust me, when I have a bad game, I do not need anyone telling me I had a bad game. Like, I'm well aware. Like, there's nobody that's harder on me than me. Like, I know it. So, I don't know. Just maybe some food for thought for the audience and for fans listening.
No, that's a great point. One of the things is football is a job, right? So the product people see on Sundays, Monday nights, Thursday nights is football. People don't care about your personal life. People don't care about what goes on outside of it. They just see the product, right? It's the same as if I went to a Costco. I don't know what that cashier is going through, right? I don't know if the cashier's dog died the other day, if they're going through some type of sickness or illness. I just see you as a cashier, and the product is getting my Costco items, and I'm here to go get my stuff and get out of here. Like, that's what the motto is. And in a way, I understand what the fans are, where they come from, right? Because they work, everybody works Monday through Friday, Monday through Saturday, 9 to 5. And all they want to do is see a football game because that's the product, that's the viewership. But going back to your question, what's the average NFL fan? The average NFL fan is finding out more than just the game, more than the X's and O's, like I said, finding out what that person is like. And it is sad because NFL players, and not just NFL players, but professional athletes are always on a higher pedestal. And so your mistakes and mishaps are going to be more blown up than they should. And your private life, things that you go through are always going to get brushed under the rug because that's not what you're there to do. Like, at the end of the day, Charvarius Ward, he's a defensive back for the 49ers. He's made to play he's made to play cornerback. He's made to defend the run as an edge defender, as a protector. Nobody is going to care about, what Charvarius Ward did on a Monday through Friday. And that's sad to say, but that's what the game is nowadays. That's what it's become, And part of the reason why I've got into doing media and content is to be able to bridge the fact between players, fans, and people who enjoy the game. Give them another voice, give them another platform. For example, there's a Steelers page I follow. They're called Steelers Depot. And there was a play in the New England Patriots game where they ran a same-size zone out of shotgun. And there was a lot of mishap on Twitter, or X as they call it, where people thought Broderick Jones, left tackle, stepped the wrong way. And so, I mean, you just go through the comments, people were grilling the kid, killing him. And I got on there and I left the insightful comment. I said, no, he didn't step the wrong way. His assignment was a zone to the left, but because there was nobody in his gap adjacent to his left side, he helped out with the 3 technique, who was there with him and Isaac Seumalo, who's the guard. And then once he cleared the penetration of that 3 tech, then he worked back to the left. And so things like that, where I'm able to just give little like tidbits and nuggets, can save 1, 2, 3, or 4 fans from thinking like, this guy is, absolute dog shit, excuse my language, or he doesn't care about football. I don't care what he's going off the field. Like, everybody's going through something, man. And if I can just be that bridge to help people understand at the end of the day, like, hey, we understand like football is the product, right? Football is what we do, but it's not who we are. So
Well said. What type of effects? I don't know if you've experienced or seen this personally, or you know of others who have gone maybe
Mm-hmm.
through some similar. But just the effect of social media and
Mm-hmm.
some of the reactions from fans, and just the mental health of players. I think the mental health aspect of it is something that doesn't get discussed nearly enough, but I think it's
Yeah.
super important. So just either your own experience or kind of what you've seen from teammates.
No, that's a great question. Everybody talks about um, social media. Players shouldn't read into, the news clippings, bad or good. It's rat poison. When you're doing good, keep yourself level headed. If you're doing bad, stay above ground. That you always see that. But the problem is, right, in today's day and age, I can't tell you that, hey, this player is not looking at his social media clippings. We're human nature, right? There becomes a certain extent where we as humans, sometimes we feel the need to find satisfaction in what others think about us. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you just because Justin Herbert isn't on Twitter, right, that he actively doesn't know what people are saying about him. He knows. Like, you can wiggle your way around it. You can say that these players, shouldn't be reading social media, but that's the day and age we live in, you know. And from a mental health aspect, it isn't healthy. You have to know as you get older how to filter out the good, how to filter out the bad. Because when you're doing good, man, it feels great. It's a drug that, man, it's like, oh, I'm on top of the world. People are talking about me. I'm trending on Twitter. I'm the man. And when you're bad, it's bad. You want to go into a dark room, nobody bother me. I don't want to talk to anybody for a week. Nobody. Like, don't call my phone. DND. And it's tough. That's the day. I mean, every player has got like a podcast now, so the social media aspect of things has, one, I think, just blown up just the whole state of football and engagement to a whole new level. I mean, if social media was around in 2006, we're probably looking at more stories than that should have been told. But it's crazy. And the mental health aspect, like you said, a lot of these guys have to take care of it, because if they don't, man, it can be really tricky for them, especially the younger generation coming up.
I like your point about, if you're playing real well, stay level headed. If you're playing poorly, it might not be as bad as it seems. And
Yeah.
I always think of the phrase like "this too shall pass," and it's
Mm.
usually used when describing like a bad part of your life. Like, hey, whatever you're going through, just it will pass. Eventually, there will be greener pastures on the other side. But I also kind of use it for if you're going through something good in life. It's like when you're on top of the mountain, like this too will pass, and you will probably end up at the bottom of the mountain again. But just understanding that like these moments in your life are transient, and sometimes you're on top of the world, other times you're at the bottom of the barrel. So
Indeed.
have you seen it impact performance on the field? Like I'm curious, like to your perspective, like do you think these comments and all this chatter online, do you think it gets into players' heads?
Yeah. You'd be a fool to sit here and say Marvin Harrison Jr. doesn't read his clippings on social media. You'd be a fool to say, man, his dad is Marvin Harrison Sr. There's no way he's letting some, 22-year-old businessman who sells stocks in New York from a troll page get to him on Twitter. You're wrong. Especially the younger generation, man, they grew up. This is the social media era. All they know is social media. All they know if they do something good is to post it on social media. All they know if they had a bad game is to read about themselves on social media. And so when you look at a player like Marvin Harrison, who kind of is going through a slump right now, you're crazy to think that the kid deactivated his apps on his phone. I guarantee you that's not the case, and it genuinely, 100%, it affects the play of players. I know it does. And I'll counter it in this way. When I was younger in my NFL career, 2021, and I had a bad game, I was one of those guys. I saw the clippings about myself. Hey, Breiden Fehoko, he had a bad day in the office, had no run defense, like was getting blown off the ball. Like I saw it all, read it all, especially after a loss. Everything's glorified, right? As much as I'm going to sit here and say that does affect me negatively, part of that kind of affected me in a way where it kind of lit a fire under my ass. Like, I wanted to have that chip on my shoulder to prove people like, no, like, I'm not a slouch. I'm not a guy that gets lit up off the ball. I can play at this level of football. And so there is give and take, right? Part of it is I want to prove these people wrong. And part of it is like, man, are these people right? Like, do I suck? And so you have to learn how to filter it as you get older. You have to learn how to take in the constructive criticism versus things that should go in your ear and go out the other ear. And that's my 2 cents about it, man. It's the day and age we live in. You know, use social media, use media, use the internet to your advantage, not to your downfall.
I think it's a really good point that you bring up on just how you interpret some of the negativity, and I think that's a big part of it, right? Like you can't stop people from saying negative things about you, but what you can do is control your mindset on how you want to interpret that negativity.
Mhm.
And it goes back also to the theme of like personal responsibility and understanding that, listen, bad things are going to happen in your life, but if you decide that ultimately I am in charge of my outcomes,
Mhm.
and you know, if I'm putting in 110%, if I'm doing everything I can in my power to achieve some goal, everything else that happens, you just kind of have to let it be. Maybe it's an unlucky break. Maybe, like, one thing that I always think about is like Brock Purdy, right?
Mm.
Like, guy gets drafted, last pick, NFL draft. It takes two injuries to
Mhm.
our starting quarterback and our
Mhm.
backup,
Yep.
Garoppolo and Lance, for him to get an opportunity. Now, people will say Purdy got lucky, you know, whatever. Sure. But he was ready for the opportunity. And when the opportunity came, he took advantage of it. So he was doing everything that he could do in his power, right? Like being the best version of
Yep.
himself, being the best quarterback that he could be. And when the opportunity came knocking, he was ready and he took advantage. And now he's making, what, I forget, what is it, 50 million a year, whatever his
Yep.
his
North of 50.
most recent extension. Yeah. So, like, my point is there is luck involved. And I'm sure
100%.
if I were to ask you, like, hey, maybe if one or two things break my way, maybe I'm, the starting, D lineman for the Chargers or the Steelers, right? But we can't always control luck, and my opinion is I think it's foolish to try and wrap your head around luck. I think what you ultimately should be striving for is putting yourself in the best position possible by being the best version of yourself,
Yep.
and taking advantage of those opportunities when they come knocking.
I'm gonna pull up. I had tweeted about it. So I tweeted this August 24th, 2025 of this year, and I said 6 years in the league, and I believe the league is summed up in three main factors that affect your career longevity: one, opportunity; two, timing; three, availability. And to me, if you look at any player, Tom Brady, Brock Purdy, Dak Prescott, man, I could go on. The list goes on and on. But those three factors all had to align at the right time for their career longevity to kick into what it is: opportunity, availability, and timing. Like, and if you think about it, the opportunity could be there for you, right? Where, hey, say the guy in front of you does get hurt. But if you're not healthy, your availability's out, then, the timing isn't right. And so vice versa, you can mix and match it either way. The timing could be right, but the opportunity's wrong. And so I take back to my time in when I was in LA with the Chargers. I became a starter midway through the season at nose tackle when we had two defensive linemen go down. And it was one of those like Brock Purdy things. The starter went down, the backup went down, then I became the starter. And it was the right timing for me, right? The timing and everything, and just everything I thought the stars were aligning. What I didn't know, the opportunity was the right opportunity for me. But the timing of it was, I had to realize that, one, a lot of the contracted guys that were coming back from these injuries were big contracted guys. So as much as I thought the timing aligned for me, in hindsight, long-term longevity, the opportunity didn't measure up to what I thought it was. But going back, I'm rambling here, but going back to what I said, those three factors of availability, opportunity and timing have to line up, especially for young players coming into the league looking for that next, like, hey, where's my breakthrough?
I'm trying to think. Feel free to push back. I think the only one out of those three that you can control is availability.
100%.
And even that to a certain extent, like, I mean, sometimes you get hit from behind, or right, like you can control it to an extent, but sometimes some unlucky play happened. Nick Bosa this past weekend.
Yep.
I mean, it just sucks for my Niners, but and sucks for him too. But yeah, I think the only one that you can somewhat control is availability.
And that's the crazy part, right? Is like, even if you're fully healthy and available, you may never get an opportunity, you know? And that's the crazy part about it, is like, that's how the NFL works. It's always going to work like that. That's how it's been throughout decades. And it's going to continue to be like that even after we leave this earth, you know? And it's crazy to think about, but that's what it's boiled down to, in my opinion.
Do you think that those three things mainly, I want to be careful with my wording here, that they mainly apply to, let's say, later round picks? Because I'd argue first round picks are kind of immune to an extent to some of those things. You get drafted top 10, first round, honestly, you're probably getting an opportunity, and the timing doesn't really matter because you're just going to get the opportunity, and then availability, obviously, if you get hurt. But thoughts on that?
Dude, 100%. I tweeted this too. I said draft status drives draft status drives your opportunity, right? Everybody knows the first round pick and the 7th round pick aren't going to get the same amount of attention. They're not going to get the same amount of opportunities. The reps they get are going to be different. The leash is going to be a lot longer for a first round pick than it is for a 7th round or UDFA, let alone. You know, I got into it, but it was the whole RG3, and that's what kind of really blew up my like the media side of what I've been getting into, because
I saw this, by the way. I'm excited for this. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
The whole RG3 thing, when he had talked about Dylan Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders and how the Browns have practiced, quarterback competition malpractice. And I talked about, and I tweeted, I said, you and Kirk Cousins were drafted in the same draft by the same team, right? Regardless of what a team says, even if they say there's a competition, the underlying rules and the cardinal rules that people don't, and it's not written, is your draft status drives your opportunity. And RG3 out of everybody knows that, right? Even if the coaching staff wanted Kirk Cousins in the 4th round and went and double backed and got him, RG3 was handed the keys to the franchise from day one, and that's just because of his draft status. No matter how bad RG3 played, Kirk did not get his shot till RG3's knees went out from Haloti Ngata. And that's the facts. And so when you talk about Dylan Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders in that situation, the Browns went and drafted. Well, let me go back. They traded for Kenny Pickett in the offseason. They gave up a current year draft pick for Kenny Pickett. So that's one acquisition. They signed Joe Flacco back, who's another acquisition, who took them to the playoffs a few years back. Deshaun Watson he got hurt last year, but he's going to be healthy by midway this year. So that's already 3 quarterbacks. The 4th quarterback, Dylan Gabriel, was drafted in the 3rd round, right? Or 2nd or 3rd round. I can't remember. 3rd round. They took Schlesinger in the 2nd round. 3rd round. And then Shedeur finally goes in the 5th round. So you're the 5th option at this point behind 4 other options. Whatever media agendas are being written, that's not what's being said in the rooms, or that's not what's being done. And people who have played in the NFL, been in these locker rooms, been in these meeting rooms, higher up personnel who have been in these offices on cut day building these 53-man rosters, know the underlying rules that draft status drives opportunity. And not everybody, and Shedeur could do everything right, but that still isn't going to afford him the opportunity to win the backup job just because they took Dylan Gabriel in the 3rd round. And that's just how it is, And that was my point to RG3, was because you were drafted first pick, RG, taking nothing away from your college career, Heisman winner, record setter at Baylor, Kirk Cousins was not going to get the same opportunities you got until you got hurt. And that's just, it is what it is.
So I mentioned Kyle Slater coming on the podcast, and he, again, average NFL fan here, but I was certainly not privy to a lot of these things. But he was saying how similar to, I guess, draft capital, you also have literal capital. Like if teams invest a lot of money into a certain quarterback, they are going to stick with that quarterback for a longer period of time, even if the backup is maybe performing better. Because the GM, and it blew my mind how this all kind of connected. This is probably so obvious for you, but because the GM, right, like if the backup outperforms the quarterback that they just paid, whatever, $100 million to, now the GM is going to look like an idiot. And he's like, why do we pay all this money to this guy when we have his backup who's way better and way cheaper, and we could have invested that money. Yep. And so now the GM's job is on the line. So there's like stuff like that when you mention draft capital, when you talk about contracts and who's getting paid and who's not, and certain people wanting to protect their image and all these things. Like a lot of factors go into the timing that you mentioned, so and the opportunity, quite frankly.
One thing people won't realize is a lot of these general managers, they know they're on the hot seat. They are going to go out on the hot seat by playing their hand. And that is, if a GM signed Deshaun Watson for that $200 million guaranteed contract, he's going to get fired behind Deshaun Watson in that $200 million contract. Not necessarily because he gave that money to him, but one, it's on your track record. If you as a GM, think about it. If you as a GM gave all this money to one person, put all your chips on the table, and then a year later, you're like, oh, never mind, this guy's playing better, which he probably is playing better, and you put him in, it doesn't make you look good as a GM, right? One, it doesn't make your eyes look good from your scouting perspective, like, hey, this guy, I missed on him. Nobody as a GM likes to have a lot of misses on their track record. That doesn't get you hired in the NFL as another GM, right? If you're a GM and you have a lot of hits, that's what gets you hired. That's what gets you extensions, the Howie Rosemans, right? The Brett Veach at Kansas City. That's what gets you extensions year after year, is you have more hits than misses. But when you have misses, and the media, the public, everybody with, eyesight can see that it's a miss. If you confirm that miss, that just, you can already, dock it on your resume, and it's hard to get hired in this league when you have misses like that. And that's what I'll say about that.
Yeah, and I'll just say this so we can wrap up, because I do want to get to your story and your journey. I had Alex Acker on the podcast. He was former guard for the Detroit Pistons back when they had Chauncey Billups, Rip Hamilton, when they won their ring. And he was saying how, there were rookies on our team who were better than some of the veterans. But the head coach, what you just said, was on the hot seat. And he didn't want to, play the rookies for fear that they would not perform well. And now he would, eventually he would get fired. So he wanted to play the veterans, guys that he, were, tried and tested, and it's kind of how it went. So there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff, I guess, to kind of wrap up this that, average fans just don't see.
No. So I was going to talk about it. Like, that's a good point you made, right? And what people don't realize is when a coach, a personnel office member, GM in any sport, when it's time for them to stand on a table, right? They'll never be faulted for standing on the table for a proven guy versus an unproven guy, right? Because if your track record, right, like a Deshaun Watson, say he never pans out in Cleveland, but you stood on the table, well, you can always say, well, he was the top quarterback in Houston pre-injury before he got to Cleveland. But say you stand on the table for a UDFA, right? Who knows? A Kurt Bankert that comes in and plays quarterback for you. And Kurt Bankert never pans out. Now you're looking like a fool as a front office, as a coach, as a scout, whatever, in whatever professional sport, that you stood on the table for a guy that was unproven and you missed. So that's part of the reason why coaches, if they know they're on the hot seat, will still go out and play the vets, play the proven guys, play the high money guys, because it's the safe bet. And even if they don't pan out on resume, people agree with you that, oh, I can see why the other guy that people were calling to play is unproven. And it just doesn't look good if you have an unproven guy and you miss on that. Now it's a dock on your resume.
Dude, I can't help but think, I had Cassius Marsh on the podcast, played for the Seahawks, played for a bunch of things, Cardinals, Bears. But he was saying, like, during, was it 2012, 2013, when the Seahawks had Doug Baldwin, Ricardo Lockett, a couple other guys. He said there were guys in our practice squad that I would watch during practice that, in my opinion, were better than some of our starters, like just making incredible catches, doing insane things, but just never saw the light of day, on the field during a regular season game. But that also makes me think then, like, when you hear about these stories of these undrafted free agents that do make it, like, they must have just been like
Phenomenal.
otherworldly, like
phenomenal. But it's like gambling, man. Like, you need one person to believe in you, and it's tough because it's hard if you're not a proven commodity in professional sports. It's so hard to get somebody to stand on the table for you. And man, you talk about like the UDFAs that have made a name for themselves in the NFL. Dude, the man parts on whatever scout that had to stand on the table for them was you had to be gutsy for that, because people lose jobs, right? People lose jobs over draft picks of first rounders not hitting. So imagine the heat you would get for putting a UDFA guy or a late round pick in there and he never hits. So just the magnitude of how much more it could hurt, like a scout, a coach, a GM's resume. Now you're seeing it how other people in the building see it.
Right. Breiden, I do want to get to your story, and kind of how you even got to the NFL.
Yeah.
So we'll start here. Born in Honolulu, what can you tell us about Honolulu and how it impacted just your football trajectory?
Man, the state of Hawaii is something I pay homage to in my culture. It's something that's made me who I am today. The island, we come from a small island, man, and so to make it, to be a part of a small quota of NFL players that have made it off the island means, and it holds a lot of weight to me. I think the pride of players that come out of Hawaii is something so different. Man, you see players from Texas, Florida, the Californias all the time, right? There's just a whole big crop of them. But coming from Hawaii, man, playing football, it means more. There's no professional team in Hawaii. I mean, the Hawaii football team has struggled for years. So high school football is the mecca out there. It's a religion. People care about it. It's what kids grow up and they aspire to win a state championship in Hawaii, and eventually, if they're lucky enough, go on to play football at the next level. And I've been fortunate enough to do that, and that's what Hawaii and being born in Hawaii has done for me. Is just, it gave me so much sense of pride of where I come from, and those who are going to come after me.
Do you ever think about one of my other favorite questions is, like, if you simulated your life 1,000 times, and how many of those simulations are you in the exact same position that you are in today? And I feel like in one of those simulations, or maybe a couple of those simulations, maybe you would have been born in Florida or California or Texas, right? Like one of these big football states.
Yeah.
Do you ever think about how that would have changed your football career?
Yeah, my sophomore year in high school in Hawaii, I got offered to play at the IMG Academy in Florida on a full ride scholarship, financial aid taken care of. They were going to take care of everything, room, boarding, everything. IMG Academy, top tier. I think about that often. Like, what would have happened if I had went to IMG? And part of me thinks that maybe I could have been, more, I'm not gonna say better football player, because I feel like I've done everything I could to be in the best position possible I have. But would I have went to a different school? Would I have, the pathway of my life? Would it have opened me up to doing something else or being passionate about something else? Those things I don't know. And so those are the questions. Like, if I had to rerun my life 1,000 times, like, what if I did take that leap my sophomore year to go to IMG Academy? How would it be different for me? Maybe I would have went to Alabama and played offensive line, So in another multiverse, man, these things are probably possible.
Did you ever feel distracted in Hawaii? I only ask because I've been a couple times, and it's like you got the beach, you got the
Yeah.
beautiful nature, women ain't bad. Like I have to imagine, like for someone who's trying to stay disciplined and motivated and
Yeah.
chase this dream of
Yeah,
making it
yeah.
to the NFL, I have to imagine it's pretty difficult to stay disciplined.
Dude, it's not like the discipline isn't hard, right? There's no, I wouldn't say distraction. It's really the lack of motivation. Because if you're in Hawaii, they have this thing called island time, right? And you're on island time. Island time means you're in no rush to be absolutely nowhere. If you're out in public, people are walking slow, people taking their time. If you're out in traffic and it's rush hour, and Hawaii is like the second worst traffic in the nation, I think, nobody's honking at you. Nobody cares. People have their windows down. They're playing music, arms out the window, cruising down the freeway. Like, nobody is in an absolute rush. And that's one thing I love about the state of Hawaii is people are just so happy and content with life there. But on the downside, it's also bad because you can really, lack motivation at times. And on days when you're supposed to, work out or, go hit some extra hills or something, you're like, let's go to the beach, let's go catch some waves. And, that's kind of the downside of living in paradise. But I wouldn't trade it for anything, man. I love Hawaii. It's a staple. It's a part of me. It's going to be a part of my family one day. And, it's somewhere where I don't know if I want to retire and live there because of the cost of living, but definitely make it a place of, home location part-time.
It reminds me, man. I hear this advice in business often, and I think it just applies to anything at this point. But like who you surround yourself with is a big thing. And like, there's that famous quote. It's like you are the result of the 5 closest people you interact with, something along those lines. And like I grew up in the Bay Area, and so like I noticed it definitely in high school. And anytime I go back to visit friends, like they're always talking about either money or success or career or Silicon Valley is right there. So it's like, all right, are you starting a company? Are you taking VC? Like what's happening? So like that definitely is that culture, and I feel it. Like, and every time I go there, like I start thinking about those things. I'm like, all right, like what am I doing to, increase my financial stability? Like,
Correct.
and then like now I live in Florida, and I have noticed like my parents live in Miami. So like when I go down to Miami, it's like a lot more. I think it's changing a bit because there's more tech and VC money going into Miami, but it is more just like party and a little more of that easygoing, attitude. So fast life. Yeah. So like I noticed that when I go to Miami, I'm like, all right, like, yeah, let's go out tonight. Like, why not? Let's have a couple of drinks. So I do think about that often. I also think about like maybe with the internet, that's maybe not as important because everyone is so connected, and you can get that motivation from following certain people on the internet or listening to podcasts now or watching YouTube videos. Do you think that having social media when you were in high school would have helped or hurt you?
So social media was just becoming a staple when I was in high school. But
because real quick, you're 28, right?
28. And so
28, yeah. We're the same age, yeah.
I don't think anybody knew how to harness social media yet, right? To use it for your strengths. Like podcasting became a hit post-COVID, because everybody was at home. People were like, how can I, provide motivational words of encouragement, things of that nature? How can I, liquid some cash and earn and all these kind of things? And so I think back to like, if I had these opportunities and this knowledge of social media and how to harness it in a good way, I think about my recruiting process. I think about just the capital gains I probably would have made. I would have probably did more content creating in high school as a 5-star recruit. And being one of the first to do it. Now every kid's doing it, and it doesn't matter how many kids do it now. It'll never become tiring to the viewer because people always want to see the viewership of like what athletes go through on a day-to-day basis, because it's so inclusive to only athletes. People want to find out more. People are always trying to engage more. And I pitch myself every day because I'm like, one, I don't have my old social accounts from high school. When I got to college, I created all new ones. And the silly part of me wish I would have saved. I mean, I probably had goofy pictures on my Instagram, right? Of like me and high school friends and all this. But part of that I miss. And I think social media has been so beneficial to the day and age of not just the new generation, but even to our generation in, like you said, doing a podcast, doing a show, providing content engagement on Twitter. Now, X, as they call it, is allowing people to, have monetization over their content, revenue sharing. Like these are things that are so cool and are going to continue to evolve for the people as we continue to grow this thing, over the internet.
Yeah, I asked you about social media as if we weren't the same age, but I do remember. I do remember in high school. You are right. Like back then, it was like, oh, Twitter's this cool thing, and like
nobody was on it though. Like
yeah,
it was like in high school for me, it was Instagram was the thing, but it was really like Snapchat and Vine. Like it was like people don't even remember like Vine. Like I talked to like my nephews who are like 12 or 13, and they have no clue what it is. I talked to kids who I was in college with, and they were born in like the early 2000s, 2001s, like some of these rookies that are in the league now, and they have no idea what Vine is. And I'm just like, I'm mind blown, right? I'm like, what?
Dude, the hours spent on Vine. Yeah, but now you have kids like at the age of 17, 18, like using social media to build up their companies and create like multi-million-dollar companies. Like it's wild, man.
Within the confines of their home.
Yeah.
And it's crazy how they've been able to revolutionize it and just make millions just from sitting at home on a couch from a cell phone.
I want to tee up for us to discuss your experience at Texas Tech and LSU.
Yeah.
But I was reminded of this while we were talking. So Kyle Sloter, to go back to him. If you can't tell, I love Kyle, but he talked about this delusional self-belief that he had and that helped him in his NFL journey. And the example he shared was like, hey, Nick, like if, today you came to me or whatever, Sunday night, and you're like, hey, you're down 3 with 2 minutes left and you need a touchdown, and you give me the option of Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes, or myself, I'm going to choose myself 10 out of 10 times. And now, fans may hear that and they'll disagree and be like, no, dude, I'm taking Brady or Mahomes, whatever, right? That's not the point. The point is that Kyle has so much self-confidence and confidence in his own ability that he's willing to put that on the line against some of the best quarterbacks of all time. What was your experience with confidence, with this idea of delusional self-belief? You could just talk to that a little bit.
Man, I love the delusional self-belief. I train kids now, and the first thing I tell them and I coach them is you have to believe in yourself even when nobody else believes in you. True story. So last week I'm training one of the kids and he's having a pretty good session. We're going through drills, we're working through it. And I always do a conditioning part at the end of a session. And there's this little hill. It goes about 20 yards up. And it's not too hard, it's not too steep, but it's a good speed racer. And I tell him, his name's Jaden, and I say, Jaden, we got 30 of these, and you got to do it within 5 minutes. Something like even Tyreek Hill couldn't do. I said, you got 30 reps, I want them done in 5 minutes. And he looks at me, he goes, 30? 30? Like, he goes, Coach, like, what are you saying 30? And so I'm like, hurry up, let's go, let's do it. So he does it. I originally had planned for him to do like 10. The kid, in 5 minutes, the kid does 26. And I said, Jaden, tell me this. Before you even gave yourself a shot to run that hill, you counted yourself out. I was only going to make you do 10 reps. You did 26 in 5 minutes. Imagine if you told yourself, all right, I got 30. Cool, I'll do 40. Sometimes, Jaden, in life, you have to psych yourself out, even when something's out of reach and you know it's out of reach. The stats are pointing to you not being able to do it. The data shows it's not 100% possible. There's some way, somehow, deep down in you, you got to be crazy enough to think that I'm possible. It's like winning the lottery, Jaden. You know it's a 1 in a billion chance to win the lottery. But somehow, some ways, whenever some person buys a lottery ticket, they feel just like anybody else that I'm going to win the lottery. And you got to have that craziness inside of you, because if you want to make it, and I tell my kids all the time when I train them, I said, if you want to make it to this level and you want to play at this level, you got to be crazy. You got to believe that I can do things that nobody else thinks I can do, right? If this quarterback throws this ball and I'm 5 yards behind the receiver, there's got to be a way where people think you're out of position, you're going to go make that pick. And so, man, the self-belief, the believing in yourself, I always called it gambling on myself, right? At the end of the day, I'm never going to gamble on somebody else. I'm always gamble on myself, because I'm always go out on my terms. But I love that. I love the delusional self-belief, man. I'm a sole believer in it. I always tell my kids that I train them, man, like, this is what you got to do. You got to believe in yourself. You got to have the utmost confidence. And honestly, I caught a little bit of cockiness, because you got to be cocky, man. You got to believe that I'm the best out here when I do it, even if you lack the talent. But I always told myself, even when I was a kid, I was a chubbier kid, I always told myself, I can go play running back. I can play quarterback, even if I wasn't the fastest guy, because I just believed it. And once you start believing things, you start seeing them and they start happening for you.
I'm getting goosebumps again. I'm so excited for this. Two things come to mind. First, I just read about this Kobe Bryant story this morning. I posted on my Instagram. Kobe Bryant, at the age of 12, goes to see his guidance counselor at school. And the counselor asks him, Kobe, what do you want to be when you grow up? Right? Age old question. Mm-hmm. Kobe says, oh, I'm going to be in the NBA. And the counselor looks at him and he says, well, that's kind of difficult. Your odds aren't that great. It's like a 1 in a million shot. And Kobe looks at him and he says, I'm going to be that 1 in a million. 12 years old, Kobe Bryant is saying this. First of all, to know that early on that like this is your sole passion, your sole goal in life, so admirable. Because I know a lot of people, their entire lives go without finding that passion, or it takes them a while to find what they're actually good at. So it speaks to that, to what you were just saying with Jaden and just on the topic of delusional self-belief. And then I was looking to find this tweet from Alex Ramosi, entrepreneur. He says, if someone told you to hold your breath for 60 seconds, you could do it. Mm-hmm. But if they told you to hold your breath until they told you to stop, you'd probably start thinking, how long do I have to go? What's the point? Is this even good for me? What makes entrepreneurship hard isn't complexity. It's not knowing how long you have to keep pushing before you get relief. And many people could hold their breaths for 60 seconds, but would give up at 30 seconds if they didn't know when it would end. Entrepreneurship is a game played in the unknown. Embrace it. And honestly, we could switch out entrepreneurship for sports, NFL, anything you want. Mm-hmm.
That's crazy. You ever seen the picture of the guy that's digging with his shovel? There's two of them. There's one, he's digging with his shovel, and he's like one more chop away from all the diamonds. And then there's one that's farther away. He's like years away from the diamonds, but the one that's closer, he gives up, so he starts walking this way. Like that picture right there is like the epitome of like, I always look at that picture whenever I feel like, man, I don't know if something's going to shake out for me, or like the moment you feel about like just throwing it all away and giving up, like you don't know that. And that's true. Like if somebody didn't tell you what the end result is, you'd give up and not knowing what was going to happen from it,
But that's the difficult part, right? Like even with content, like I know you recently have been going strong on the content game on YouTube and X and all that. But like with content, like you never, like, first of all, there is no end in sight. Like, I mean, maybe if you decide one day I don't want to do this anymore, but like you just never know what piece of content is going to be the piece of content that puts you over the top or gets your name out there. Or, like I can't tell you, man, how many times I've posted like an Instagram reel, or a TikTok, or a tweet, and like haphazardly, like without even thinking, I'm like, oh, I'll just post this, and then it goes viral, and I had no expectations. But on the other side, I can't tell you how many times I've been like, oh my god, this is the perfect video. This is it. This is the YouTube. This is the interview that does it. Like here we go, and then it flops, and nothing happens. So like taking the Hermosi tweet, like if I were to tell you, Breiden, awesome, you're doing content, give it 2 years, man, and in 2 years, whatever your definition of success is, 100K followers on X, 50K subscribers on YouTube, whatever you want it to be, like you will reach it. You'd be like, awesome. You'd be so motivated. Like, all right, let's dig in, right? Like, let's do this for 2 years, and then I will reach the top of the mountain. But now, like, you have no idea. Like, I mean, in my opinion, you're great at what you do. So I am very sure that you're gonna, reach whatever you think your level of success is, but it could not happen. Like, back to the opportunity, timing, and availability, right? Like if we apply that to content,
correct,
maybe some stuff just doesn't shake out the way that you envisioned it, and it doesn't happen.
correct.
So like that's becoming an athlete, same thing. You could put in the work, you can put in the practice. Sometimes it just doesn't happen, and that's the difficult part is continuously showing up even when you are not guaranteed success.
Correct. Love that.
All right. With that, we'll end the pot. No, I'm just kidding.
That was a good message. That was a good message, though, for sure.
I do want to get, man, to so high school 5-star recruit. You go to Texas Tech. 2017, you went to Texas Tech, or what year is that?
I got to Texas Tech in 2015.
2015. Wow, way off. All right, 2015. I
left Texas Tech in 2017 to go to LSU.
Okay, Texas Tech 2015. First of all, why Texas Tech, and just initial impressions? What was your experience like?
Man, so I had a really, really close relationship with the guy who recruited me and who was my D-line coach. His name is Mike Smith. He's the outside linebackers coach for the Patriots now. And, my older brothers went to Texas Tech. And so as much as I was a big, heavily favored recruit, like Texas Tech was, I guess, always one of those like back pocket aces that I had just because of the familiarity with my brothers being there, with the staff. And I thoroughly enjoyed it, man. I enjoyed Lubbock is definitely a different place. It's flat. It's West Texas. If you think back to those old cowboy movies, and the showdowns in the saloons, like that's what West Texas is. But shortly after I got there, they had fired, Mike, and got rid of like that defensive staff a year in. And then a year later, my sophomore year, they continued to get rid of the defensive staff. And so, I had 3.5 D-line coaches in 2 years there in 2 seasons. And for me, I just felt like it wasn't sustainable. And it wasn't healthy for a young player to kind of go through this much change and development in his career. And so, I took a leap of faith in 2017 and I decided to transfer. And lo and behold, I chose LSU, and the rest was history for me. I ended up winning a national championship, started there, captain, and forever etched in history in Baton Rouge. And I'm grateful for that. I took a gamble on myself. I took a risk, and it paid off for me, and it paid dividends.
What are some of the differences you'd say between Texas Tech and LSU? I guess maybe specifically referring to just the way that they embrace football.
Yeah.
I mean, we know that they're both big football schools, but just kind of the culture, the identity, and all those things.
Well, I think the cultures are kind of similar to me in hindsight. Well, don't get it twisted. Like Lubbock and Baton Rouge, 2 different sides of the spectrum, obviously. But from a culture perspective, like the people, both Lubbock and Baton Rouge, the people are phenomenal. Loving, respectful, caring, kind. Always treated me with grace, whether I was in Lubbock or my time in Baton Rouge. What makes them different, I think, is one, obviously, is the conference they play in, right? The SEC is, I'm saying this unbiasedly, even though I played in the SEC, but it's the closest thing to the NFL now. Alabama, Georgia, Florida, LSU, Tennessee, the list goes on and on. Now, with how Texas Tech has evolved now, I mean, that new $28 million NIL deal from that former player that played under Leach, shoot, they're closing the gap just as much as anybody else and bringing in talent and the new facilities they got. And so I think if I was at Texas Tech during this day and age, I probably would have ended up staying there instead of transferring.
You brought up the NIL. Just how do you think that's changed college sports?
Well, I think we're giving power to younger players, and that's dangerous to me because as a player, and I grew up in a different day and age where you didn't become a professional, you didn't start getting treated like a professional, made professional money till you got to the NFL, right? We're paying these kids straight out of high school, 17-year-old kids, millions to come in and not even play a snap. It's dangerous. There's no repercussions on NIL right now, which makes it even more scary. There's no type of mitigation to how if a player doesn't play out like a full season on NIL, he doesn't have to owe the money back. Like there's none of these like repercussions that like stop players from going to one university, like the whole Nico situation going from Tennessee to UCLA. Like if Nico decided to opt out the rest of the year because of the Deshaun Foster firing, he could pocket that money from UCLA and essentially go to another program and not have to pay any money back, right? And so I do believe these players need to be financially compensated, but not to the point where we're paying them, NFL money. And that's something that's always going to hold true to me. That's what makes the NFL and the professional ranks what it is today. Is guys get fired, guys get cut because it's a professional business. You get paid professionally and handsomely. In college, you can't do that. It's dangerous.
I think you bring up a good point, and it's something that I saw you tweet about. I think it came from a Q&A that you did on X, but I think somebody had asked you like, what's the dark side of the NFL that most people don't realize, and you had said not most. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but some NFL players are broke by week 1.
Yeah.
And if that's a problem in the NFL, I can only imagine
a 17-year-old
what's happening. Right. But like, give us a little more insight though, like just the financial aspect of that. Because I saw Cameron Hayward of the Steelers. I think he recently came out and he said something along the lines of, hey, listen, like I'm still playing for like money to support my family and support. And like people will say like, oh, well, he's made millions and this and that. And I don't want to get into like how he manages his money or anything like that. But there is a certain aspect. It's like, okay, so what have you done with the other millions? And maybe there's stuff that we're not aware of that you have to put money towards. Again, this is not like about Cameron Hayward. It's just about the financial, I guess, ecosystem within the NFL for the players. And I mean, now ultimately too, for 17-year-old kids who are, going to Texas Tech.
Well, I think the thought process is when you look at business America and you look at what the American dream is, the American dream for a lot of people is, I feel like for me, I could never have enough, right? I'm going to go and I'm going to make as much, doing as much as I can till they tell me no, till the absolute wheels fall off and I've maxed it out. But that's what the American dream is, in my opinion. Now, for the average American, they may say, well, there is a certain amount where it becomes enough. And I understand that. But in my eyes, like, if you're running a business and you're the CEO of a business, your job is to make the most money possible you can to let your business thrive. Like, you're not going to put a cap on your business, right? Say if your business is projected to make 20 million this year and all of a sudden you start getting to August, October, and your quarterly sales are like, whoa, I might make 25, 30 million this year because we're doing good. I'm not going to cap it at 20. Like, we're going to go for that. And I think that's what the fans that watch the game, they don't realize is football players are their own CEOs. So football players would be foolish in this short amount of time playing this game with the financial compensation they make to not maximize as much financial opportunity as they can while playing it. One is the player health and safety, right? The quality of life post-career, a lot of people don't realize, man, a lot of these football players, and I even feel it now, and I'm a couple months out, but a lot of these players, man, they go through a lot of health changes in their life that the money and quality of life, man, it isn't worth all those millions. You know what I'm saying? And that's why when I see a guy like Cam ask for that money, he's 36. I mean, I'm knowing by maybe 5 to 6 more years, he's probably going to need 2 to 3 surgeries on his body, back, leg, shoulders, hands, like, and these things add up over time, man. And that's not even just to go into the brain health of like CTE, the concussions, all that whatnot. This is just the body breaking down. And if you're around, if you just see any retired player who's, played a minimum of 4 years in the NFL and you just see their like after effects in life, I think people would have a more sincere understanding of like, man, maybe these players do deserve a little bit more money. Like, that quality of life is, I was golfing with a Cowboys player He's retired. Man, I forgot his name. Older dude. But I'm talking about like this dude is 48, 49, walking with a cane. You know, his wife needed to be there for him to like help like translate. Like he was very like his speech was very slurred. Um, you know, bones. His hands were brittle, and so like it was kind of sad because I was like, man, like part of me thinks like, man, this could be me one day. You know, and so that's my whole take on it, man. Like we see ourselves as our own CEO, and it'd be foolish not to maximize the amount of financial opportunity we have playing this game while we're doing it.
Braden, real quick, do you have a hard cutoff, or how much longer can I keep you
Probably
for?
about
Just so I know.
5 to 10 more minutes. Is that enough?
Cool. Yeah. Cool. Just so I know some of the questions to get through.
Yeah.
All right. 3, 2, 1. Yeah. I mean, it goes back to what we were talking about. Just some of the things that fans don't realize. You know, I always think about how the NFL stands for not for long. And it's you know, we see certain players that have been in the league for a long time, and we think that that's the norm, but that is not at all the reality.
No.
So it's and that's why I like to have these conversations to kind of let the fans into some of the things that they may not realize. Brandon, I do have a couple questions. I told you I wanted to get to the quarterback thing that I had, because you played with Mahomes at Tech. You played with Burrow at LSU, Herbert in LA, and then Rodgers in Pittsburgh.
Russell Wilson as well. I forgot Russ.
Russell Wilson.
I forgot Russ. I'm sorry. I forgot to mention Russ. Russ, if you see this, I'm super sorry. I forgot to mention. Russ is a great guy.
Russ, I still have PTSD from Russell Wilson scrambling around when he was on the Seahawks and he was chucking up bombs against my Niners, man.
Young Russ was a lethal threat out there, man.
He was elite. He was definitely elite. What can you tell us about Mahomes and Burrow in college?
First thing that comes to mind is competitors. Like competitors, and I could say the same thing about Justin too. I remember when I first got to Tech, man, Patrick Mahomes would be on that ping pong table in our locker room hours after practice. And the funniest thing about it, I tweeted it last week, was Justin Herbert was the same way our rookie year when we got to LA. Like, me and him would play ping pong for hours after practice. Like, and this dude, like, if I'd beat him, it wasn't like he'd make me stay back to play, you know. But the level of intensity these guys approach practice every day is what stood out to me. The game naturally came easy to Patrick. I felt like watching him, being around him, arm talent, I just felt like it was so easy, as if like football wasn't his first sport, you know? Almost like a Nikola Jokic, like the game looks too easy for him. Like, it just, like, not saying he doesn't care, but it's like, is there another challenge, you know? And he's done that. I mean, he's hitting Brady levels of quarterback, and he's changed the game, you know? He's made being a dual threat quarterback in this game. Quarterbacks or teams are now trying to draft the next Patrick Mahomes, right? And what he's done to revolutionize, like, just the sport from that position, I think is awesome. Now, Joe is different, man. Joe's cerebral. Like, not as much talent from just natural God-given talent as Patrick Mahomes, but Joe is one of those guys that he is going to be in that facility from 5 a.m. to midnight, like, just figuring out ways on how to beat you. Now, Joe was one of those kids that he was born to play quarterback. Like, you probably saw Joe Burrow in Little League football, and he probably was the kid that was always quarterback, never played any other position. Like, that was Joe Burrow, right? Ohio boy, dad was a defensive coordinator. Like, kid was born to just read pre-snap safety shells. Another great dude, quiet. Joe is reserved. Out of all the guys I've been with, Joe is one of those guys where if he's not comfortable with you, man, he won't talk to you. And that's Joe. Like, he won't open himself up just around anybody. And I always appreciate that about him because, you know, like, we had a really good relationship and our parents have a good relationship. But Joe's so cerebral when he talks about the game. He can calculate it. He knows where guys are supposed to be. He knows where the throw is supposed to be before the play is snapped. Some of the throws he makes, it's insane. It's insane to me. And you talk about like quarterbacks I played with, and I'll probably go on here, but just phenomenal. Like I played with the athletic quarterback types. I played with the cerebral type quarterbacks. I played with Hall of Famer, older gunslinging quarterbacks. Like I've been very fortunate, very fortunate.
One thing that made me laugh was one of your tweets about Herbert, where you said something along the lines of like, "I promise you that dude is psycho."
He is psycho.
And I know you meant it in the best possible way, but just like it cracked me up because Herbert carries himself as this like laid back, like he's dating Madison Beer, like his life is perfect, but like he seems very humble, very like soft spoken, like not super like outgoing. At least again, what I see through media and through some of his interviews. But why do you say that he's psycho?
He is psycho. He's psycho. He can agree with me that he is psycho. Many times, right? I can think of training camp, our second year, who were the Chargers, and I can't remember if it was Drew Tranquil or somebody like Justin Herbert. Like, he scrambled out, and Drew didn't mean to hit him or anything. It was one of the linebackers, maybe Kenneth Murray, but they accidentally like bump into Herb on a scramble, and he like his body like flails, right, and he like hits the ground, so it looks like a hard hit, and like he gets in, like we start getting a pile, like the team's fighting now. This is Justin Herbert that just got hit. Justin is at the bottom, like after he's getting hit on the bottom of the pile, and I just remember him. He's like, yeah, like hit me, and he's just like he's smiling about it too. And then like he walks back to the huddle and he's like smiling. He's like, you guys like that? Like that was fun, huh? And he's just like, it's crazy. I'm just like, what is wrong with this dude? You know, like just there's certain stories that I won't go into, but just the fact of like he's and when I say he's psycho, I mean it in a good way. Like he's not legit like
Of
Michael
course.
Myers like psycho, of course,
Right,
you know.
right. Yeah.
But he's psycho in the fact that this kid wants to win. Like I played ping pong with this kid for hours now, and I've played online chess with this kid. I've been to his house. We played Madden. He just hates to lose, like, and he'll make you stay there. It's a Tuesday night. We have practice the next morning on Wednesday. We're at Herb's. He used to make brisket on days off, where he would cook steaks. And like I'm about to leave, and it's like 11:30. I'm like, Herb, I'm trying to go home. Like my house is like 15-minute drive away. He's like, no, like we're playing another game. I'm just like, come on, dude. But great guy. I'm glad to see him finally getting his flowers. You know, it's been a long time coming because he's always played like this, but it's not until the Chargers are now 3-0 starting the season that people are starting to be like, oh, Justin Herbert, man, should be the MVP. Like, it's just, I'm happy to see the guys I've been with know how they work, know how they, you know, just handle themselves and hold themselves, kind of get their flowers now.
The Chargers are my AFC team because I've always loved Herbert. I've always been a fan of his. To your point, like he's always been this good. He may have even honestly, you know, taken it up a notch this year. But he's always been so talented. I just think he's, you know, the team around him hasn't always been the best. The weapons haven't always been there. He now has Keenan back. He has Ladd, Quentin Johnson, who's having a breakout year, who I don't think anybody saw coming, unless you're maybe super close to the Chargers. But Jim Harbaugh is my guy. I always root for any team that Jim coaches. So I'm just super excited for him and for that team.
No, when I think back to Justin's earlier years with the Chargers, I think about how they tried to utilize him and first-round quarterback. But we played Miami on a Sunday night in 2022, and we threw the ball like 51 times that game. And while that's cool, you have the quarterback to do it, it wasn't complimentary football to me. Like now he's throwing the ball like 24, 25 times a game, but 19, 20 of those are completions. 6 of those are explosive plays. Like it's more efficient now. You know, you're not just having the gunslinging quarterback back there, you know, the prolific field general just trying to throw the ball with him. Like they're using him in ways now that benefits not just Justin Herbert, but the whole offense, the run game, the quick game, the deep part of the field game. Quentin Johnston, like people said, people didn't expect this breakout year for him, but the way they're able to mitigate risk from just throwing the ball 51 times a game and expecting Quentin Johnston to catch 12 of them is so unrealistic. You got to make easy throws in this league. You have to set your guys up for success, and I think that's what they're doing, especially with Jim Harbaugh.
Breiden, 2 more questions for you, and then I will let you go. First question is Aaron Rodgers, because I know you played with him, and people are going to think that I'm like some sort of Aaron Rodgers apologist because I want to say that I defend him, but I do think that there is this portrayal of Rodgers in media, and a lot of it is self-inflicted. Like he says some things that people don't agree with, or that are maybe a little controversial. So I get it, and I'm not saying that I agree with everything he says, but I interviewed Ian O'Connor, who wrote a fantastic biography on Rodgers, and that book really changed my perspective on him. And then I had Ian on the podcast, and it further kind of solidified that change of perspective that I had on Aaron. Just who is Aaron from the interactions that you had with him, from what you saw him, in with the Steelers? Like, what did you discover about Aaron Rodgers?
I discovered somebody who's not afraid to think for themselves. I think that's what really gravitated me towards Aaron. I was always very skeptical about Aaron Rodgers, right? Because all I had known about Aaron was what everybody else said about Aaron Rodgers. When I got to Pittsburgh, and I spent time with Aaron, I mean, one of the greatest guys, just not just quarterback, but just a great human being. You talk about a guy who like has tons of money. I mean, the guy wears flip-flops and, Russell t-shirts and shorts around, like true California boy, surfer hat on, some shades on, like, and every time I'd pass by him, we'd always pop jokes or something. And, one time we're sitting playing cards, and my wife, she calls me, and like it's in between camp, like chilling with the guys, and I ignore it. And he goes, "Who is it?" I said, "Oh, it's my wife." He's like, "Man, go talk to your wife. Like, why'd you ignore it?" And he's like, man, like, you don't get these opportunities back. You never want to look one day and be like, "Man, I didn't pick up that phone." And he's just a guy that I really enjoyed. And I mean, just me and him could talk for hours. We did one night. We talked for hours, just contrary to what's going on in the world now today. But man, I have the utmost respect for that man, not just as a quarterback, but just as a human being. And what he's been able to do in his career. I applaud him for speaking up, for being the guy that doesn't always go with the status quo, because it's so easy in today's day and age to be politically correct, to go with the status quo, to just be the company man that everybody believes in the same thing. Like, and being around Aaron, it's okay to find out and research things for yourself. And that's all I'll say about it, man. I wish him nothing but the best. He's a great dude. He texted me like 2 weeks ago, just checking in on me, all that good stuff, whatnot. And I just wished him a healthy season, and just a great guy.
That's so well said. And I'm glad you brought up the point about conversation and continuing to have conversation. And when we stop talking, that's when bad things start to happen. So it's really important. And that's also why, like, I try to push back on some of these media narratives and some of these things, because it's like, I get it. Like, you may disagree with what Aaron has to say. By no means does it mean that he's some sort of bad person or that he wishes ill will on anyone. He's, from everything, like I said, that I've heard and that I've read about, to your point, everything and what you just said, he seems like a fantastic person. So 100%. Thanks for that perspective. Breiden, one last question, man, and then we are done.
Yes,
I normally ask, like, if you could have one conversation with any entrepreneur or athlete from history, who would it be and why? I think I want to ask you that question, and I'm interested to hear who you would pick.
From history, could be dead or alive?
Dead or alive.
Oh, man. That's a great question. Honestly, this is gonna probably surprise a lot of people, but it'd probably be Jerry Jones.
Oh, wow. All right.
I recently just saw that Cowboys documentary, and I gained a new found respect for Jerry after watching it. Just like everything else, like you see in the media, Jerry's a micromanager or Jerry this and this, he controls too much and whatnot, whatever. But the business side of Jerry Jones is really what intrigued me. Like how he coin flipped for the Dallas Cowboys, how he, invested all his money into that oil rig, and how he talked about when he first heard that sound of that drill pumping into the ground, he knew he was going to be the owner of the Dallas Cowboys. I would like to know just what were his thoughts like there was some point where Jerry was, not a millionaire. Like, what was that the question I'd ask him was like, what was like the initial thought of like, this is what's going to make me money, or what loan did it take, or what, grant did you have to write off, or what investment was it that was like, this is what's going to take me to the next level? Because there was at some point where Jerry Jones didn't have what Jerry Jones had. He had to work his way up, and so that's kind of just what I just ask him is like, how did you get to that point of like being in the oil rig industry? Because he said his first purchase for an oil rig was somewhere north of 700-800K, and like I'm just like, how did you get to that point, right? The 800K, the $800,000 purchase. Like there had to be some like micro steps along the way. Like I want to learn what those micro steps are.
That's actually really interesting. I was surprised at first, but now when you explain it, I think I share your intrigue. It's like the origin story of Jerry Jones. Like, who was Jerry before Jerry?
Who was he?
I mean,
yes,
that's
because he's made like in the city of Dallas, he owns, like, you talk about the land in North Dallas that's growing right now, multi-billion-dollar industry. Jerry, like, strategically, before he bought the Cowboys, bought all this land out in Dallas, Texas, and built the Cowboys rebranded the Cowboys in North Dallas, and like now he's got an empire. And even when he's long gone, Steven, his grandsons, their grandchildren, like they're set. And that's like kind of what I want to pick Jerry Jones's brain about, is like, how did you get this vision? Like, what were you looking at? What were the stats? What was the data pointing to? Like, or maybe it was just a gamble, and he was just like, on a map, throw a dart. This is where it's gonna be. Like I got to know these things, right? Because if he's whatever steps he's taken, he's obviously been successful for himself financially. I want to be able to do those same things.
Listen, if anyone's lucky enough to have Jerry in a podcast, or maybe I'll have the opportunity one day, please ask him about the origin story. That would be dope. That would be a full circle moment for me. That would honestly be awesome. Yeah, please ask him about his origin story, because now I'm also excited about that.
Yeah.
Breiden, I've held you hostage for long enough. But before we leave, where can people find you and more of your work?
Yeah, so you can find me on X, aka the old Twitter, at Breiden Fehoko. You can find me on YouTube at Breiden Fehoko 96. That's where I'm dropping content, regularly, weekly, and just trying to provide a gap, man. Just trying to bridge the entertainment of viewership between fans and the sport of football.
Love it. I've checked out your content on YouTube and on X. Highly suggest you go follow him. You're a great follow, man. I was scrolling through a bunch of your tweets this morning, just doing some research for this, and I was like, "Yep, this is my style of content. I like this."
Trying, man. I'm trying.
Yeah. Best of luck to you, man.
Appreciate it, brother. Thank you.